Today I want to talk about how I'd use my time as a hunter to maximize my chances of success if I was hunting on limited time. Like I had to pick my days, pick my hours, morning or evenings, schedule vacation in advance, things like that. So let's get into it. So first thing, I'm gonna basically just tell what I would do, and I do have limited time. I know sometimes it's hard to see that because it looks like I just take off whenever, and I kind of do, but I'm still picking my days because I have a whole lot of deer coming in the shop during hunting season. I've got a whole lot going on, FFA and everything's going on during hunting season. So I'm picking my time, but a few things I look for. If you've watched some of my videos before, you probably heard me talk about the moon phase. I like 3 days before a full moon, and 3 days after a full moon. A lot of people may disagree, but I've got enough data that I'm convinced that that's the best time, or can be the best time to hunt, especially mature bucks. And that's when I'm busy in the shop. That's the few days following full moon is when I just get slammed every single full moon through season. But I'm kind of gonna, so if I'm gonna look at, like, take for instance, if I was somebody that had to schedule my vacation 2 weeks in advance, and I was gonna take a full week off to hunt, or take 5 days off to hunt, and I had to schedule my vacation in advance, I would look at the full moon. Now obviously I'm going to factor in what phase of the season is it, rut, post-rut, pre-rut, whatever's going on, I'm going to factor that in. But if it worked out to where I could take my 5 days vacation on the dates the doe should be coming in, so what the rut is supposed to be, and there happened to be a full moon right in the middle of that week, then that would be absolutely perfect. That's what I would plan for. Now obviously weather can affect that if it's 95 degrees after we've had a cold front, and we can talk about that a little bit. You'll see like bucks down in South Florida right now rutting, chasing does, and I don't even know the date, but it's third week of July or something, and they've been chasing does down there. So for the deer to be running around, I'm sure it's not enjoyable, but they've still got summer coats. They're not in a winter coat. So come a little, even deer down there get winter coats, but come a little farther north than zone A. So basically Central and the rest of the country, Central Florida and the rest of the country, when we get a cold front, deer put on their winter coats. So they'll put on almost layers, but it'll be a thick coat after a cold front or two, and that's when you really don't see deer movement when it gets hot, is after we've had a cold front and they've got the winter coat on, because it would be the same thing as me putting on thermal long johns and a big heavy jacket and going to run around in 95 degrees. I can't do it. I'd pass out. I'd die. It's no different for the deer. Once they've got a winter coat, they're hot. So they're going to be a lot more active in cool weather. So I've got my 3-year-old in her eating a sandwich. Okay. But anyway, so if I had to schedule vacation 2 weeks in advance, I would just hope for the best as far as the cold front, but I would be looking at the full moon. If you don't, like say I didn't have to schedule it, say I work for myself, but I can only miss two days. I can only be out of the shop 2 days or something a week. So that's a lot easier to plan for, because then I can see a cold front coming regardless of the moon phase. I can see a cold front coming, and then I can see the pressure, what the barometer, the pressure is doing. So if the pressure is rising, like what I would want to see, like that would be everything coming together at once, and it's going to be just a perfect day, is 3 days either side of the full moon, that 6-7 day window right there around full moon, and a cold front. So temperature dropping, or at least have dropped, something cooler weather where the deer feel comfortable. And I know you get up into Michigan or wherever, and a cold front late in the season may not mean as much because it gets so cold that the deer aren't really moving too much because it's freezing. I'm not saying the extreme, but as far as Florida and the southern states, I would see a cold front coming, and then I would, if I could catch it where the pressure was rising, and even if it was a situation where I could take off 2 hours each morning or something before work, so I would want to see that pressure rising, like ideally above 30 and rising, and if it's doing it from say 8 to 10 a.m., something like that, that's when everything happens together, because you're going to get a wind shift. I've talked about this a little bit before. My favorite time to hunt, regardless of the moon phase, regardless of the temperature, regardless of anything, regardless of rut, is the AM, or any wind shift for that matter. But you can always, pretty much always, outside of a storm or something, count on some type of wind shift, in that 8 to 8:45 a.m. time frame. And that's when I'm going to see the bucks either move beds, or they've been kind of laid somewhere waiting on the wind shift, and then they go check a new bed or check a few beds and lay down somewhere else. What I like about the full moon is it seems like on that wind shift, say it's 8:30, on the 8:30 wind shift, they get up, if they're laying down, they get up from wherever they're laying down, and they're going to make their way towards their daytime bed for that wind. And on a full moon, they seem to stay on their feet a little bit longer. And I think that's why if you ran cameras and wrote down all your dates, wrote down your full moon, wrote down the wind, everything, all the data you could over time, you would see that you get more daylight, more buck pictures, mature buck pictures, daylight in that 6-day window around the full moon. So I think what it seems to me like they're doing from what I've seen over the years is they're staying on their feet longer during those 6 days around the full moon. So if the rut is starting, it's kind of a pre-rut or something, they may be getting up from the bed and going to check a scrape and then going to find their daytime bed. If it's early season, what I see is they'll be laying on the edge of a pond somewhere or something, get up, come out, feed on acorns for 15-20 minutes, and then go find their daytime bed, or come out and feed on whatever they're feeding on and then go find their daytime bed. So that's really why I focus in, like that 6 days around the full moon, I'm basically gonna hunt. And like outside of something happening, that's when I'm hunting. But if everything comes together, so you got a full moon week, you've got a cold front coming in, you got the pressure rising in the morning during the wind shift, and even through the wind shift. So if it's rising all day, great. If it's rising till 11, good. If it's rising till 10, good. But that morning time, and I know a lot of people don't like to hunt mornings, but I prefer mornings. But I think that's just kind of been beat into me hunting Florida, because in the evening times, the wind is just so terrible. It's just everywhere. At least Central Florida. North Florida gets a little bit more steady wind. But as far as Central Florida goes, a lot of places to hunt evenings, you would almost have to hope the deer stayed in his bed till 10 minutes before dark, and then you wait 30 minutes before dark and run in and get set up, and it's rushing. But outside of that, there's obviously deer get killed in the evenings. Obviously you can catch a good consistent wind for 20-30 minutes, and that's when the buck comes in. Everything works out great, and I've done that, had it happen. But more times than not, at least 60% of the time, and a lot of people, even me included, probably don't know that we're spooking the buck or a buck. He'll catch our wind and just slip right back off the way he came, or he may be laying down and catch our wind and just go out another way, or not move, or whatever happens. We don't always know we spook them, but I'm pretty confident that 6 times out of 10 hunting evenings, I'm spooking the deer because I know they're there. I know I'm set up good, and I don't see them. So I'm pretty confident they know I'm there. So I lean towards more hunting mornings, and I don't. And that's when you got to know if the deer are on feed. You know, if the deer are feeding and you got to walk through them in the dark, going to your stand or going to where you're going to set up and you're busting deer everywhere, then obviously it's not doing any good. So I may wait till a few minutes after daylight when I think the deer have moved off the feed or they've moved into a little thicker area. If I don't know, if I can, I want to put cameras around so I kind of know what the deer are doing. But if I don't know, then I may wait till a little after daylight, and then I'm getting set up at 7:15, 7:30 or something, you know. Even if I'm walking I may walk in a mile in the dark or 2 miles in the dark, half a mile in the dark, and then just wait. And then after it cracks daylight and I can see a little bit, I'll ease on up and climb a tree, but I'm setting up to hunt that 8 to 10 range. I'm hunting that wind shift is what I'm hunting. I've shot, a little off topic, but I've shot all my, which a buck here in Florida only has to be 100 inches to make registry. But all of my registry bucks, with the exception of 2, and one of those was running dogs. But as far as still hunting goes, all of my registry bucks have been killed in the morning, and I believe all of them between, to be safe, I'll say 7:45 and 10, but probably 8:30 to 9:30. And that's going back years to, that's currently how I hunt. I love mornings. I would give up every evening to only hunt mornings if I had to make that choice. And I saw it. I know I'm talking a lot about Florida, but last year I went up to Tennessee for the 3-day velvet hunt, and it had been kind of nice weather leading up to the hunt, and then it had a warm front come through, and the south wind swirling. It was terrible, absolutely terrible. The only time you would have killed a buck where I was, it would have been hunting mornings, and it's very hard to hunt mornings with the crop fields and everything else because you can't get in. So we were limited on where we could access in the mornings due to there being so many deer and deer being on feed. But the evenings were completely out. Like, I think I hunted an evening. Yeah, I hunted one evening, kind of just sitting off in a no man's land. But the guys that were hunting evenings, for the most part, didn't see any bucks, or either had them coming up there almost in range and then wind them and take off. So a swirling wind, like I've always said, and everybody says, you can't kill them on the couch. You gotta get in the woods, and I believe that, obviously. But if the wind's swirling everywhere and I have limited time to hunt, especially working for myself, I'm gonna work those days, and then I'm gonna catch some good weather and go hunt. Or I may go, if it's a weekend and the boys are out of school, we may go hunt and stalk some hogs or do something fun. But I'm not big buck hunting when the wind's swirling everywhere and going crazy. But I think I talked about a lot of things to think about. But you got the moon, you got the pressure rising, you got cold fronts, you got rut. I mean, maybe even factor in acorns or a feed or something else that's going on where you're at. But those are things I would factor in if I was limited on my time to hunt and had to schedule time off. But those will definitely be the times that the odds are better. But anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, I tried to cover everything best I could quickly, but if you have any questions, just drop it in the comments. I'll do the best I can to answer. I know South Florida season's fixing to kick off, so good luck to y'all fellas. And I'm sure I'll be seeing some of y'all down there pretty soon. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.